Coming up on Valley News Live at 6, a former West Fargo teacher faced a jury today on charges of luring a teenager.
A community shaken after an early morning bus crash with injuries in Otter Tail County.
Plus, why the Energy Secretary is visiting North Dakota. Valley News Live at 6 starts right now.
This is Valley News Live at 6.
Good evening, everyone. A jury of 12 deciding the fate of a former West Fargo high school teacher after getting the case late this afternoon.
59-year-old Ronald Thompson is charged with one count of luring a minor for sex after prosecutors say Thompson sent explicit messages to who he believed was a 14-year-old girl back in October 2019. However, Thompson's attorney says his client never arranged to meet with the teen, urging the jury to find Thompson not guilty.
The world is a messy place. And that's not how we judge people, no matter how messy they are. We're alone.
The jury deliberated for 20 minutes before being released for the day. They're expected to reconvene for deliberations tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
It doesn't happen very often, that's for sure. It's very scary, honestly.
Definitely a scary morning for all involved in the Ada Borup West School District as a bus carrying children was hit by a pickup. 4 Ada Borup West students were rushed to the hospital, one of them being airlifted. The superintendent saying some injuries are serious but not life-threatening.
The Clay County Sheriff says it appears the pickup traveling on 40th Street North failed to yield to the school bus traveling east on 190th Avenue North. The sheriff says the driver of the pickup was hurt, but his injuries aren't life-threatening.
It's bad when it's anybody, but it's even worse when it's kids.
Parents were notified soon after the accident to pick up their kids on the bus.
We'll continue to update you on the injured students' conditions.
Meanwhile, another school-related story. A Moorhead school in lockdown this afternoon as officers were called to the Moorhead High School Career Academy for a report of a student with a gun in his backpack. That student was taken into custody. Officers confiscated the replica firearm and other items of concern. No other students were impacted and the school initiated all safety protocol. The student is facing several charges, including a felony charge of terroristic threats. While tornadoes yesterday touched down in rural areas, we still had strong bursts of wind as well. Hutch is here with an update on some damage that he's confirmed. Hutch, what'd you find out?
Mike, thanks so much. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, we did have those reports of tornadoes and tornado warnings. A lot of rainfall that was beneficial to the area, but certainly slowed down the harvest and snow out in the western Dakotas. This photo was shared today. If you look very closely, I want to thank Mary Kay for sharing this. This is near Frazee, as viewed from the south, a storm that made its way over the Eagle Lake area. And we did report that there was damage there last night, but we didn't realize the extent of the damage. Now, here's a lowering of the cloud base called a wall cloud, and this looks like an ominous or fairly large funnel. It's almost impossible to tell from a still photo if that was making contact with the ground or even if it was rotating. But this radar loop last night shows that in the 6 o'clock hour, they were rolling through the Becker County area, just exiting out of northern Otter Tail County, and right here is where that damage was reported. So it does fit the radar data pretty well. We'll keep you posted as to what transpires there. Nonetheless, a lot quieter today. Cloudy, cold, and windy for us, but look at this. Freeze warnings in effect for the central and western part of North Dakota. We're going to get chilly, but because of the clouds that linger and the wind, we're not going to get as cold. Low 40s as we go through the overnight hours in Fargo and in Grand Forks. We'll have some 30s in our forecast, though, and frosty and freezing conditions for many in your hour-by-hour forecast. I'll have details on a first alert weather day for your Saturday coming up here in just a few minutes. Hey, this chair rolls in pretty nice.
All right, thanks so much. Well, the job market appears to be improving. That's after numbers of Americans applying for unemployment benefits fell to its lowest level since the pandemic began. Claims were down to 293,000 last week. The number hasn't been that small since March of 2020, when restrictions intensified. Between July and August, North Dakota's claims fell 0.3%. Minnesota claims fell just 0.1%, with employers eager to bring on new employees. Lawmakers in both states are working on programs to address these staff shortages.
North Dakota oil and gas production are both up 2.8%. That's according to the State Department of Mineral Resources. But gas shortage is 5% below the 5-year average, and drivers are feeling the hit. When Congress returns to Washington next week, they're expected to take up a vote on the $3.5 trillion infrastructure plan, which could impact gas prices. North Dakota Congressman Kelly Armstrong was among state leaders that are critical of the package.
The cost in and of itself is terrible. The climate provisions are absolutely horrible for the two number one and number two industries in North Dakota, which are ag and energy. So we'll spend a ton of money, put industries that are incredibly important to North Dakota at significant financial risk, to alter the way of our life in North Dakota. And at the end of the day, we won't have reduced carbon in the atmosphere one bit. And more importantly, none of these programs will actually succeed.
Natural gas prices are expected to spike even before the act would take effect. Critics of the plan shared concerns that the emissions fees will likely cause another boost to energy prices.
Energy is a driving force in North Dakota's economy. U.S. Senator John Hoeven and Governor Doug Burgum led discussions today on state opportunities to expand green energy technologies while saving current infrastructure. U.S. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm was there as well. We'll have a breakdown of what was discussed in Grand Forks on Valley News Live tonight at 9 and 10.
A sentencing today in the death of a Grand Forks man back in 2015. A Rhode Island man, Stephen Pinto, was sentenced to 33 years in federal prison for his role in an international fentanyl trafficking operation that resulted in that overdose. He's charged with conspiracy to distribute and import controlled substances, money laundering, continuing criminal enterprise, and obstruction of justice. The court alleged Pinto was part of an international narcotics trafficking ring receiving fentanyl from Canada and China. The investigation started in North Dakota in January 2015 with the overdose death of 18-year-old Bailey Henke of Grand Forks. Operation Denial has led to 31 defendants charged in North Dakota, including 3 Canadian nationals from Quebec that are awaiting trial in Fargo, scheduled for next October.
40% of TSA workers are not vaccinated against COVID-19, and that deadline is looming. TSA says workers need to be fully vaccinated by November 22nd. The deadline comes right before the busy Thanksgiving travel holiday. At Hector International Airport, TSA is responsible for security, which can be a bottleneck for travelers. The agency says it's creating contingency plans in case of a staff shortage. Now keep in mind the majority of staff at Hector do not work for TSA. An airport spokesperson says the employees, from firefighters to equipment operators, are not subject to vaccine mandates. Gate and ticket attendants are employed by the airlines and subject to their own mandates, many of which are already in effect.
The Speaker of the South Dakota House is facing a lawsuit over his decision to withhold from a newspaper the names of lawmakers who petitioned for a special legislative session to consider impeaching the Attorney General. The South Dakota Newspaper Association filed a lawsuit yesterday against Republican Representative Spencer Ghosh. They claimed he violated state open records laws by refusing requests for the names of lawmakers who signed a petition for the special session. Attorney General Jason Ravensburg is facing potential impeachment next month for his conduct in a car crash that killed a pedestrian last year. There's a new attraction at the Mall of America that's embracing failure. We'll have that and much more still to come here on Valley News Live at 6.
Your peak temperatures today were pretty chilly. Out to the west, we had some low 40s in Harvey and Rolla, rather. It was low 50s at best here in the valley and beyond on a cloudy and windy day. Hey, we did get an update to that drought condition. This is where it was. See all of the red? That's extreme drought. A lot of that disappeared, and it didn't even include the rain from this past system. We'll update you on your forecast. It looks chilly right after this.